A word of warning, this podcast explores graphic and disturbing stories and includes some strong language. It therefore may not be suitable for our young listeners or other folks who may find it disturbing. Hello and welcome to True Crime News, the podcast covering high-profile and under-the-radar cases from across the country every week. I'm your host, Ana Garcia. Our case this week, police say that one Florida man went to extreme lengths to cover up the murder of his estranged girlfriend, including arranging for his cousin to dress up like a masked man and shoot him in the arm so everyone would think that he was a victim too. Police say the man and his cousin carried out an elaborate home invasion robbery that left a mother of 3 dead. And this woman, police say, was shot in front of her 3 children, which are also the estranged boyfriend's children. He told police while clutching onto that bleeding arm of his that he tried to protect his family from the killer. But the security cameras and the evidence at the crime scene told another story, the story of high school sweethearts, a toxic relationship, and their 3 children who can never unsee the violence that they were exposed to. Their mother is dead. Their father is in jail. We are recording this on Friday, April 11th of 2025. Our guest today is Dr. Tracy Tamborra, a nationally recognized expert on domestic violence, a criminal justice professor from the University of New Haven, and a dear friend of the show, Tracy. Dr. Tracy, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Anna. Glad to be here. And I always accept your invitations, but they're never on pleasant terms. These cases.
No. And sometimes we do try to break things up and try to find a less serious case. We do. But sadly, so much of what we examine, and we do this for a community conversation about domestic violence, which is a huge part of what we discuss, and we talk about justice. And this case, the details in this affidavit are incredible. It's like a story that's written for you by the detectives.
Yes. I was really impressed by the affidavit. We're going to get into some of the details, but the level of clarity in terms of the writing, I'm really going to show some of my students because a lot of criminal justice students will say, how important is it for us to be able to write well? And not just the amount of detail that went into this affidavit, but the level of clarity with the writing. I don't want to get into the grammar and punctuation, but it was just, it allowed me to read it, to understand it, because there are so many details. So I really want to say kudos to the investigators who put so much time and attention into this affidavit. It's both rich with data, and it's also very easy to follow for somebody who's trying to understand the facts of the case.
And that's what's really important, is to kind of take everything, the evidence as they present it and the facts as they allege, and string it all together to make sense and bring you to a conclusion along with motive. And that's what they did here. Also, we have some incredible insight into detective work.
Yes.
Crime is very common sense, I say. And there were a ton of red flags, and we're going to go through them. And the red flags the detectives saw as they were going through the case, and they just made these wonderful, simple comments that were brilliant.
Sure.
Right? And I always say, even in writing, the simple writing is brilliant because it's not that easy. So when you just ask those questions, it's like, well, hold on a second. And it all is going to boil down to a sweatshirt that we're going to talk about. A piece of clothing that that struck a detective, where the detective said, that is such a valuable piece of clothing. I bet you the person values it and would maybe be photographed with it or still be hanging on to it. Key.
Yes. Yeah. That's something I hope we get to. But it was also interesting, these detectives, again, for individuals who want to work in the criminal justice system, to enter the police force, to move your way up to a rank like detective, you have to take a series of tests, including a writing ability, an analytics test, and so you see this individual make this connection between the sweatshirt and perhaps social media posts, and is able to locate the individual just by really an intuitive appreciation of human nature. This guy had a cool sweatshirt. I bet he wants to show it off. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Simple, brilliant, love it. It's like all those TV shows you see, those crime shows, where the detective asked that question. It was just so wonderful to read. Okay. So investigators have released new details about what they say really happened to a mother of 3 who was murdered in Orlando, Florida. The woman ran a hair salon from her apartment. So at first, Tracy, it seemed plausible because she ran a business and may have had cash, may have been a cash business. It's plausible that there could have been a home invasion robbery coming after her money.
Sure.
But even at the scene, things just didn't add up.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So the evidence at the crime scene and the story told by the alleged survivor here, her estranged boyfriend, just didn't make sense. And it didn't make sense initially, even though there wasn't an arrest for her murder for more than a year, because it takes a long time to get all the facts together and find the supporting evidence, which would be text messages, phone calls, cell phone data, and tons of surveillance and ring cameras, not just at the scene of the crime, but at, friends' residences and neighborhoods. It's really a detailed investigation. So, and all of this comes out in a more than 30-page affidavit. And the one nugget that we've been talking about, it's like, if you're going to dress as the masked gunman and you're going to wear, right, your favorite sweatshirt, and you're going to be seen on surveillance video wearing this unique sweatshirt, right? Would you really wear the one that you have been photographed on Instagram and the same one that your mother tells police, oh, yes, he bought that when he was released from prison. It's his favorite sweatshirt. Hello?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think intelligence was his greatest characteristic here. So he's, in some ways, I'm grateful for criminals in this way because they're not hard to detect, right? And so it makes it easier to bring about justice for this mother. But at the same time, you're thinking, like you said, this is just low hanging fruit. Just put a plain black zip up on.
Why? This thing was emblazoned with Ferrari on it. It's a Puma sweatshirt. They know the make. They know the style. It's coveted. Yes. It's easy to spot. Ridiculous. Okay, so that's just one of the many clues and holes that detectives found. So let's get to the murder victim here. 30-year-old Porshe Streeter, a mother of 3. She was shot 10 times. And this happened more than a year ago. She was found in the bedroom of her apartment, and her 3 kids were in the bed when she was murdered.
Right.
And if we are to believe police, that the father of those children is responsible for this. Mm-hmm. That is a level of violence. That is a crime that is so horrific. I can't even.
Sure. You're talking about a myriad of crimes here, right? You're not just talking about one. The home invasion is the first one. Then there's the murder. And then there is the behavior in front of the children, right? And also, you're talking, I believe the number is 10 gunshot wounds to the mother. So this wasn't, this is also, again, a poorly staged robbery. You're not just, you're not going in to rob a home and, somebody happens to get in the way. It's obvious that the target of this entry was the murder victim. 10 shots in front of the children. And, it's terrible. There's a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 10-year-old. The 1 and 2-year-old hopefully will have no recollection, but this 10-year-old is, a primary victim, and also a victim of vicarious trauma by seeing what happened to his mother.
And this 10-year-old will be interviewed by police, and he gives statements to police, and he very perfectly, to the detail, describes what the gunman was wearing, and all of what this little boy said, this 10-year-old.
Yes.
It matches what police then find in the security cameras at the apartment building.
Sure.
Matches completely. And what's so interesting is the little boy says he's wearing a black hoodie, a mask, and red pants. But the father, the one who says that he tried to defend his whole family and he fought back and he got shot for it, this guy says, oh, he was wearing a black hoodie and black pants. No. Yeah. The Ferrari, right? The Ferrari emblem, logo, and red pants, not black pants, were the details that the child had, which were accurate. Okay.
Sure. Can we stay on the child for 1 minute, or are we going to come back to the child?
We are. We were going to name the two suspects here, but if there's something you want to talk about the child, we can.
You know, the child's being lauded for having such a cool demeanor and ability to recall information that ends up being quite accurate. But also think about, we're very happy that justice is going to be served here, but think about what that justice means for the child. So he was in a room where his mother is gunned down in front of him, and his testimony leads to the arrest and probably conviction of his father. And although we want to see his father face justice and we want to see his father punished for heinous crime, just imagine the emotional toll that boy is going through. He's been orphaned. He lost his mother and he's lost his father. And again, I can see somebody saying, good, he lost this terrible father. Sure. On the peripheral, good, he lost this terrible father. But the emotional harm that comes from work, I've worked with a victim who had to testify against, I've worked with many victims who've testified against their abusive parent, and the guilt that they feel, even if it's justified and even if, it was right, is very painful for the child. So, maybe we'll come back to that a little bit again, but I feel so deeply for this boy who had to watch his mother die, and then his testimony will be part of what puts his father in prison for life.
And what's so confusing also is that the other person who's accused in all of this is a cousin. It's a relative. So really you're looking at an extended family dynamic that the most horrific part of this is that your father is accused of plotting this with his cousin. And it's believed that the cousin is the one who shot everyone. Right. And it's just, all of it is horrible. And you have to wonder, and this is my question, and it's not answered in the affidavit. It may be answered later, is what more did the child say about his parents' relationship? And then in the more than a year's time until the father is arrested and held, right, he's been with his father. What was that year like after the mother is dead? And this 10-year-old is being cared by the father.
Sure.
And both of them, essentially, at the time, are witnesses to a crime.
Sure. Yeah, right. Imagine the kind of bonding that he's doing with his father during this year. This child needs quite a bit of services quickly.
Yes.
Not just for the loss of the mother, but for the trust that he put in and the bonds that he was developing by living with his father now.
Now, how do you process that your father allegedly is behind this entire thing?
Yeah. And you lose your second caretaker one after the other.
Yeah. Very, very traumatizing. So there are two people charged here. The estranged boyfriend, Porshe's estranged boyfriend, 32-year-old Saun Rainge Jr. And police say that Saun orchestrated the killing, instructing his cousin, Benjamin Garmon, who is 26, to shoot the mother first, and then later shoot Saun, the alleged, mastermind of this, but the boyfriend, to make it look like he was injured in this home invasion robbery. Both men are facing first-degree murder. Now, despite all of their alleged planning here, many details in their stories just don't add up. It doesn't match the security video. Again, all detailed. These are all red flags. All red flags that we're going to go through. Just a little bit about Saun and Porshe, just a little bit to understand a little bit of their relationship here before we get into what happened that day. So Porshe and Saun met in high school. They fell in love. And this was the kind of relationship, though, that we see often where they're together, they break up. They're together, they break up. They They meet other people, they date other people, and then they're back again. And in the middle, and this went on for years. It's described as a violent and toxic relationship. They broke up and got together so many times that in the course of more than a decade, right?
Mhm.
They had 3 children.
Sure.
3 children together. Now, according to these court records, Porsche, who had told friends and family that he was violent, that Saun was violent toward her, had beat her up in front of the children, that she refused to call police. She said she felt trapped because Saun paid the rent and helped with the children's bills. Saun did not live with Porsche and the 3 kids.
Yeah, that dynamic speaks to, I don't know if we've ever talked about this before on here, the wheel, the domestic violence wheel, where you see the center of the wheel is power and control, and then the spokes of the wheel are the forms of abuse. And so this is what often distorts the reality for victims and the awareness of how dangerous the abuse is. It also leads to the cycle, which this reads like a textbook domestic violence cycle, where it's on again, off again. And in fact, I believe in the affidavit, Saun Rainge Jr. says something to that nature. We're always on again, off again. That's just the nature of our relationship. And that speaks to the and he mentioned something about leading up to Christmas was a very good time. I thought the relationship was going well. We call that maybe a honeymoon phase in domestic violence research. And so you see this cyclical relationship, and you see some of the forms of abuse being pronounced. There's physical violence, according to her account. There's probably emotional and verbal abuse. And then the financial is very interesting. The financial is one of the forms of abuse that is very difficult, I think, for the general public to understand, because people say it was just money. She should have got her family out. Yes. So I worked with clients for 9 years in the field. Just money is easy to say if A, you have it, or B, you are thinking rationally. Often victims of domestic violence that are in this type of precarious situation don't have access to financial resources. And because they're trapped in a cycle, they're not able to process rationally. They're processing for the moment. And if she needs to pay the rent and put food on the table, I would have clients tell me weekly, Anna, if I have to take a beating to get food on the table and pay the rent for the kids, so be it. That's what I have to do. And so to you and I, this might seem so dysfunctional, so unhealthy, and it definitely is. But for her, it was her unfortunate reality. And again, I'm speculating based on the reports, because obviously we were not able to talk with Porsche.
Oh, but that's so horrible, Tracy. I mean, to think of a mother saying that she will endure a beating to save her children.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the vast majority of victims of domestic violence were exposed to childhood abuse. And so that's another dynamic. Again, we're going off track a little. We're going into, the domestic violence as a construct more than just this case. But you have to understand, if you're raised with child in a home in which is abusive toward you, or you're watching somebody else being abused, the idea that would carry into your adult relationship isn't as odd as it is to somebody who's never been exposed to that. And so when I would work with clients and they would say, it's just a beating, I'm used to that my whole life, every woman I saw experienced the same thing, it's much better than being homeless, you can kind of understand their reasoning. And unfortunately, she paid the ultimate price for this reasoning.
Yeah, she certainly did. Porsche, as we said, was a hairdresser and a makeup artist, and that's how she made money. And the shop that she ran out of her home, she's described by friends as being a loving mother and a homebody. She didn't have a car, didn't drive. Here is one of her friends, Azania Hugh, on Fox 35, describing her friend Porsche.
She was a God-fearing woman. And, if you got to know her, you know that she had a gentle spirit. How dare you pull someone's life away from them? How dare you do God's job? How dare you strip someone of their future? So how dare you strip 3 beautiful kids of their mother?
What is also interesting about their relationship is that Saun did not live with Porsche and the kids. In fact, when police looked at the text messages right before she was murdered, the two had been arguing over a key. He wasn't supposed to have a key to the apartment, and she was accusing him of having taken a key, which police believe that's what he did as part of the alleged plot here. So very important. She was trying to set up boundaries here, clear boundaries. So to best understand all these lies and all the clues as they became apparent kind of in real time to the police and all of these red flags, I kind of want to examine this case from the 911 call when police first learn of what's happened. And as police go through the crime scene, what's not adding up. And then even though we know how this ends, I think it would all make great sense and also really focus on the detective work here. Okay, let's get to the day of the murder, January 13th of 2024. It is 11:47 a.m. Saun calls 911 and says that he has been shot in a home invasion robbery, and that, and this is how he refers to Porsche, his lady, very possessive, his lady, and that his lady has been shot as well. Police get there in 3 minutes. And they find a bloodbath, right? And the 3 children in the apartment. So the first thing police do is grab the 3 children, get them out of there so they're no longer exposed to what's going on there. And as they are removed and placed in a safe location by police, they are also being preliminarily interviewed by police there. And then, Tracy, there's a reference to how the 10-year-old was then debriefed properly, the full debriefing, and where that took place and the experts that are used for that, correct?
Sure. Yeah. Also, what I didn't get though was so the father Saun is, because both of them are named Saun Jr. versus his son, the 10-year-old. Must have been present, because to interview a child, you have to have the father present, which is also interesting to me why their stories slightly contradicted. I don't know if Saun Jr., after hearing Saun III, his son, purposefully gave a different description of the perpetrator's clothes to create some some doubt in the minds of the detectives about his son, because he would have been present, because police don't generally interview a minor that young without parental presence or guardian presence. No, so that's funny to me why they told 2 different stories about the clothing. Again, I don't know if the father is trying to create some doubt in the minds of the police officers about the reliability of his son's testimony, or it was just silliness. I don't know.
I think Saun is just a liar. Yeah. And he was just making things up as he went along, because each time he gets interviewed by police over the course of the year, this story goes into 100 different directions and crazy details. And it's like, where are we going now? So honestly, I believe the 10-year-old's version of what happened from his perspective. His details are spot on that match the surveillance of who they're looking for. Remember, even though police are, suspicious about stuff at the crime scene, you have a father, right, who's been shot, is bleeding, 3 children in the middle of this thing, and then you have a mother who's dead in the bedroom. So something horrific has happened here, right? And
I just thought, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just thought of something that might be interesting to your viewers, because sometimes when we do, our what do they call it, Monday morning quarterbacking of a case that we've heard, we're like, this couldn't be. There's been research coming out in the last 10 to 15 years about victims' ability to recall information.
Right.
And so, 20 years ago, we thought that a victim's testimony would be, somewhat distorted. But what we have found is that it can go either way. The victim can have a very difficult time recalling a traumatic event and need a couple of days for the traumatic event to become clear in their mind. Or some victims are able to almost They process traumatic events like a series of photographs in which they're very capable of recalling fine details immediately. So, I hope no one in your viewing audience thinks, oh, that couldn't be, or that definitely is, because we just don't have that research now to say one way or another. It appears that different people recall trauma in different ways, either very precisely and clearly, or it takes days, or they block it, or somewhere in between. There's no perfect formula.
Right. And what authorities would not have known immediately was that, based on what the police theory is, Saun was trying to throw them off the track of where it really happened. Sure. He's telling them a story about the setup, that the home invasion, there was no home invasion. I mean, there was a fake home invasion. Sure. So, he's trying to lead them in one direction, and the 10-year-old is just trying to tell the cops what happened and that his mother is dead, and that and from the little boy's perspective, he kept saying this over and over again. Someone shot my father and killed my mother.
Yes. Yes.
Right. That's a lot. That is a lot to witness as a child.
A lot.
But yet this little boy is so accurate. So she is found in the bedroom on the floor, shot 10 times. Here's one of and the door to the bedroom has been kicked in. Okay. Mm-hmm. So here's what's interesting. When police finally get to Porshe on the floor, they notice that the blood around her is dried. They also notice that there's not a lot of gushing blood. I don't mean to be,
graphic, but that is right. Yeah. So it's not fresh.
So it's not fresh. The call just came in. Cops got there in 3 minutes. And when and remember, Saun is telling them, it was a home invasion. Someone came in, put a gun to my head, wanted money, took my jewelry. I tried to protect my children. And part of his story is that the reason Porshe was shot is because she tried to go for her phone. That was the theory. And so the gunman shot her and killed her. And this poor guy, the dad is just here trying to save everyone. And before police even walk into the bedroom, according to the court record, police ask him, because he's the first one, he's bleeding and they're going to get him attention. He's like, yeah, my lady, my lady's in the other room. I was just talking to her. Right. He said. And so police think that they're walking in to see a person who's alive, but no, kind of cold. Blood has been dried around her, and police instantly know this woman was not talking a few minutes ago. And they also know, wait a minute, this timeline makes no sense. If he just got shot and she got shot at the same time, there's no way. And that's because she had been shot 2.5 hours earlier, according to police. Oh, the lies.
Let that sink in, the fact that this father also leaves his children in the space with their dying and eventually deceased mother. Yeah.
That is horrible, because as we're going to show you, according to all of the video that police gathered, the father was back and forth mm-hmm. before the shooting and after the shooting. So for 2 hours, these kids are by themselves, and there's something that is not explained in the affidavit. Police believe that she was shot at 9:15. He doesn't call in until, 11:47. So 2.5 hour delay here, like you said. And the kids are in there and have witnessed the mother being shot. Let's say that the timeline is accurate. She's shot at 9:15. He gets shot in the arm at 11:47. What are the kids doing at this time? And the 10-year-old who has witnessed all of this and can relay the facts of as he saw them, he can tell time.
Yes.
How does he reckon this whole story about the father saying he's trying to protect them? If I don't get it, there's just a gray area in here. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. And also, he's 10 years old, there's a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. They must have been awoke, even if they were all sleeping before, they had to have been awoken by the gunshots at close range. And so the 10-year-old's probably trying to attend to the needs of the 1-year-old and 2-year-old. I mean, the affidavit doesn't speak to that, which, is probably best because seems like very sensational. I think we can all imagine what is going on in that room. And so, it's very hard because this is a very sad story to think about a 10-year-old having to have this level of responsibility again.
And maybe the other reason police don't need to have this in the court record is because that doesn't go towards the fact of why these two are being charged. And this is all about charging suspects. Yeah. That's what this is about.
I once worked a case that was a homicide. I wasn't involved in the homicide part, but I had to go because there were children involved. And some of the details were really terrible about the condition of the children during the leading up to the murder and then following the murder when the victim was found. And the police said, listen, I'll talk to the prosecutor, but I think we can leave this out of the record. The kids don't need to know this in 10 years if they want to come looking for this. And so I could see some of this information being left out. Again, it's not relevant to the case and to spare the children if they ever want to see the full affidavit or full testimony in the future.
Yeah. And also that the 10-year-old is a witness here. And if this goes to trial, may very well, he may not testify. They may just use his recorded interview.
Yes.
And will not be forced to testify. But there's a lot still here, a lot of information that's still preserved, no matter how much and how rich the details are in the description of what happened in this horrific case. So, I mean, Saun tells police all sorts of crazy stories like, I told her to keep fighting and to hang on, while he's trying to convince the cops that, he's the man of the house and he was trying to, save everyone. So Saun is injured. He gets taken to the hospital. And again, cops are questioning him in real time there at the scene, in the ambulance, in the hospital, because he is a surviving witness. And let's take it at face value. Let's say it is a home invasion robbery. Police have someone that they have to find immediately who could be dangerous and strike again, right? So you need to get as much information as possible. So he tells so many versions of what happened. And I don't want to go through all of them. Tracy, I know you read the affidavit and you went through it so carefully because it goes in 100 different directions. But there's a basic theme to his version. And so this is the basic theme that he always sticks to, even though the details go, in 100 different directions. So he claims that when he got to the apartment that morning, he saw two suspicious people either hanging around a stairwell or something like that. And he was concerned. And then he said he went to the apartment, and as he opened the door, hello, how did you open the door? Oh, did you take the key the night before? As Porshe says in the text messages, right? Opens the door. One man pushes him in, has a gun, puts a gun to his head, screams for money, screams for jewelry. And Saun also says that the assailant kicked the 10-year-old in the head.
Yes, stepped on his head. Yes. Yep.
I pray to God that didn't happen.
Right.
I realize far more serious things happened in this apartment.
Right. But that would be particularly heinous, that you're going to kick your own cousin just to set up a scene, and that the father of this child is going to go along with this to set up a scene. Yeah.
Right. It's bad enough, this alleged fraudulent scene here, but there's something about that very much upsets me. Very much upsets me. It's like there's a lot of violence. All of it is unnecessary, but this one is even that much more gratuitous. It's not necessary to kick this child in the head.
Right.
So here, again, many versions of the story, but Saun claims the gunman took everyone's phones, all the phones, takes all the phones, and somehow Saun, unbelievable Saun, kind of manages to get all the phones back from the gunman. Doesn't really explain how, but manages to right? To get the phones. And I guess the whole phone thing is important because he claims the reason Porsche was shot and killed is because she was going for her phone. Anyway, Saun, who's a superhero, manages to get the phones back. And so, of course, he gets shot in the arm. And, this is the other part of Saun's story that doesn't make any sense, Tracy. He says, after the intruder leaves with his jewelry and whatever money he had that he handed over, Porsche is bleeding. He is bleeding. He decides to walk outside the apartment to look for help, but doesn't call 911, he says. Yeah. And if you read the notes of the detectives, they're like, what sense does that make? Your 3 children, you're shot, she's shot, and you, rather than dialing 911, decide to walk outside to look for help? That's ludicrous.
Yes. Yes.
It's stupid.
I think that's the common theme in this particular case. Yeah.
So he also describes the killer, as we've kind of, already detailed a little bit. He says it's a young black man wearing a mask and is in all black.
Right.
The 10-year-old saw the intruder, says that he was woken up by the gunshots when his mother was shot. And he said that the man was wearing a black hoodie, red pants, and a sweatshirt that said Ferrari on it. So when the police look at the surveillance videos, immediately they see a masked man wearing a black hoodie that says Ferrari and is wearing the red pants.
Right.
So they know, okay, this is who we're looking for. There are a lot of red flags right here. So we have the discrepancy in the description of the assailant.
Right.
When they looked at the security cameras initially, 2 things happened. They saw the guy who they thought could be the killer, but they didn't see those 2 men lurking. Right. So that didn't make any sense to them. Where are the 2 men?
Right.
We don't see them. We see everything else. And so... well,
there was also one other point I found interesting because the father, Saun, says, hey, you can use the security camera. Let me pull it up on my phone. And conveniently, none of that footage is available. So it's almost like, it's almost like when I used to have interactions with perpetrators of crime, and they'd be like, call such and such, they'll tell you I was there. Well, you call them every time because they're usually bluffing. And so he's offering this footage that actually doesn't exist to the police officers in the beginning.
He looks like he's helping.
So he looks like he's helping. Yes.
Right. He's reacting like any innocent victim would, trying to catch the perpetrator. So here's the thing when they look at the security cameras. And, it took a lot of time for them to get all of the cameras. But here are the main points that really are so telling. Yeah. According to police, the security cameras captured Saun and his cousin Ben, the one wearing the Ferrari jacket and the red pants. Saun was seen, the 2 of them, were seen visiting the apartment complex before that day, before the shooting and after. Listen to this. The times of this are incredible. Saun was seen visiting the apartment complex 6 times in the hours before and after the murder, and 3 of them with Ben, the cousin, in the outfit.
Right. Right.
So what story are you telling? Your story does not line up with the video. So, this whole thing about running outside to ask for help, none of that makes sense. None of it makes sense. And police are not listening to him. They're listening to the audio on all the surveillance cameras, and they hear gunshots at 9:15 and at about 11:30-ish. We'll get to the details of that. So we know she's shot at 9:15 based on the cameras. Let's break down what police say was captured on all this video, okay? Because this is going to tell you the story. At 9:12, 2 minutes before shots are fired and Porsche is killed, Saun and Ben are seen waiting behind the building. What are they doing? Why would they be there? Right? None of this makes any sense. It's stupidity. At 9:15, shots are fired. And the gunman wearing the red pants, the Ferrari sweatshirt, is seen running away. Okay. Now there's a gap between 9:15 and 10:26. So what's going on in a little bit more than an hour? Cameras now see at 10:26, they see Saun, the estranged boyfriend, father of children, driving away. He hasn't been shot in the arm yet. Okay.
No.
Now this is insanity. 10:26, he drives away from the complex. 10:30, he drives back to the complex. 10:34, he drives out of the complex. 10:39, he drives back to the complex. And at 11:39, the masked shooter, who police say is cousin Ben, shows up at 11:39. Okay, there is just a short window of time from when the masked gunman shows up and Saun is shot. So 11:39, masked gunman shows up. 11:41, 2 shots are fired. That's when Saun is shot in the arm. 6 minutes later is when he calls 911. It's 6 minutes later for him and 2.5 hours later for Porshe.
Yeah, tell me something. I don't remember reading this, but I could be wrong. The son, the 10-year-old, he never says to the police, my mother was shot, and then hours later, my father is shot.
I didn't see any of that in the affidavit. That's the part of this logical, story as presented here by the police, the narrative that they believe is what happened. That part's missing. That part is missing. So what we don't know, what police have not told us is what happened in that time frame, and what did the child further witness experience? Was the father in and out? We don't know. Right. We don't know. I mean, he also may have been threatened not to say anything.
Sure. Right.
We don't know. That part's missing, and I'm sorry, I can't shed any light on it. So now I want to talk about that hoodie. And
yes,
now you all can understand why we're so obsessed about the hoodie and why it's so crucial to this investigation.
Yeah.
Police see this distinctive hoodie. It's made by Puma, and it's got the Ferrari emblem on it. Mm-hmm. And that's when, as we said, the detective says to another investigator, that's a really nice hoodie. Yeah, that's the kind of hoodie I want to show off, and I don't want to waste. So 2 things happen. Police search Saun's phone.
Yes.
And they notice that there are a lot of calls made to just 2 people.
Sure.
Police say Saun called Porshe, this is all around the time of the murder, 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
And then police say Saun called his cousin Ben 18 times. Right. So when they see those 18 times, police say, well, who the heck is this?
Right.
And the detective says, do me a favor once they identify Ben. He said, do me a favor. Let's start looking at all his social media. Something tells me this man loves this sweatshirt so much. He's been photographed. And they're on Instagram.
Right. Within a minute. The report says within a minute. The other analyst called me back and told me she checked and that he had a post on Instagram in which he was wearing the identical jacket. Also, can we talk about his handle name?
Yes.
And his Instagram handle is, some set of numbers, but then Backstreet Jack Boy. And the detective realizes in street lingo, Jack Boy is a name for somebody who commits street robberies. So this is the part that's interesting to me as the criminologist is, usually individuals who commit street robberies stick to street robberies. Sure, every once in a while there will be a murder, but it's usually a case gone bad. They rob someone, and in the course of the robbery, the victim pulls a gun, they shoot back, or there's something else. This is a case in which robbery was not the intention, where you have somebody shooting someone 10 times. Murder is the intention. And yes, there are some criminals who are not fixed in their behavior, but usually people kind of stick to a behavior, a child abuser doesn't all of a sudden become a white collar criminal, and a robber or a burglar doesn't all of a sudden become a murderer. Usually individuals kind of stay in their lane. And so when he finds the guy on Instagram, first of all, exceptional police work, but also exceptional technology, I have to say, because now you can do this. You can just use a photo of a glove, a car, something small. And within moments, you can run that photo in a technological. I'm sorry, I'm not tech savvy, but I just learned about this. I just learned about this from a colleague who is. And within a few minutes, it can run through millions of photos to hit. And so, this was such a distinct jacket, sweatshirt. It hits, they get the guy, and then he also is listing on his Instagram account this nickname that signals he's engaging in other crime. Mm-hmm. And so then they were quite quickly able to locate him and find quite a bit of other information, photographs of him wearing a hockey goalkeeper's mask, squatting in front of a car with a pistol, an AR-15 style pistol at his feet, right? They're seeing all of these other indicators that this individual is involved in criminal activity. So,
and he has a criminal history, according to the affidavit, for robbery, for guns. And so when they eventually serve search warrants, police say that they found a weapon. He shouldn't have had one as a convicted criminal. And so they pick him up on a parole violation. So he's actually the first one to be arrested, but not having to do with anything with Porshe's murder. He gets picked up on the parole violation and is held on that while the investigation continues. But, at this point, police know a lot because they know that these two men are cousins, right? Yes. So they know there's a relationship. There's a lot of communication. They've got the video of them back and forth to the apartment complex. Like, why? Doesn't make any sense why they would be there. And then they also go to numerous friends' homes and they pick up more videos, and there are more search warrants served. And this is over the course of all of this happening. But to me, the moment, going back to the sweatshirt, the moment that police interview Ben's mother, right? Sweatshirt man, cousin Ben. And the mother, according to police, says, "Oh, yeah, he loved that sweatshirt. He bought it when he came out of prison." I was like, oh, my gosh. Yeah. They got him. They don't. Obviously, innocent until proven guilty. But my gosh, what a nugget this ends up being. So again, it was about a week after the murder is when they found Ben and claimed that he had a firearm that he shouldn't have had. So that, just to give you the timeline of when that happened. So police at this point think they have the prime suspect in the shooting. Now, Tracy, I want to ask you something before we continue here. It's about who actually shot Porshe. I reread this a few times, and the indication is that the cousin is the one who shot Porshe, but I wonder if it isn't the father who shot Porshe. This area to me, I think, is a little bit gray and blurry.
Well, I think, I don't know from the...
We don't know.
But I think 2 points, right? First of all, because there's that lapse in between the time at 9:15 when the first shooting is heard, and then that 10:26, I don't remember the exact number, in which we believe the father is shot. That's a lot of time. So sure, could the father have actually shot the mother and then called in his cousin to come in and shoot him? Yeah, it's plausible. At this point, though, like the second point is, until more information comes forward, they're both being tried for first-degree murder. It doesn't matter who did the shooting because they both orchestrated it. So from a legal perspective, I don't know that the police are going to put any more time or effort into this. Now, the prosecutor may try to, I don't know if you probably know this, but only 5% of cases in the United States ever go to trial. Most are plead out, in particular, and including murder cases. And so we may never know this unless one decides to turn on the other. Mm-hmm. But again, the prosecutor might say, I don't need you to turn one on the other. If I can place you both at the scene, mm-hmm. I have murder one on both of you. I don't need you to turn. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as this moves forward. If I had to put money on it, I don't think it would go to trial. I think the prosecutor is going to try to get a plea. And that might trigger more information coming forward if one decides to say, but I wasn't if like the father, Saun Jr., decides to say, I wasn't the
shooter. Right.
Shooter. But that's going to be strange because he's the one with a relationship to the mother of his children. And I don't think the prosecutors are going to buy it. The only thing I could see changing this case is if Ben says, I was just there as a lookout. He did everything. And then he asked me to shoot him.
Right.
But that's the only thing that I could think could change legally the circumstances of this case. Right now, they're both up for murder one because they're co-conspirators.
Yeah. And the surveillance video, according to police, shows that after Porsche is shot at 9:15, the gunman, that dressed gunman, is who they say is cousin Ben, is the one who's seen running away from the scene. So, there are some things we don't know, but there's a lot that we're being told as police believe it happened. Now, remember I said they went to multiple locations to pick up surveillance cameras to show the two of them together, to kind of show the plotting. They claim that at one of these homes that they went to and they picked up a Ring camera, the Ring camera allegedly captures them at a friend's house, the two of them, Ben and Saun, allegedly discussing a fee for a potential murder. They don't elaborate on it, but it certainly isn't positive. It's not helpful. It's just another little piece of potential evidence.
Yep.
Yeah. So at this point, it's emerging for police. The picture is getting a lot clearer for them as to what they believe happened. And once they put all the video elements together from all of the search warrants, they feel that they have literally a visual story with visual evidence. Plus, then there are the text messages back and forth, the conversations, and what has really been going on in real time in this family's life. So here's what's interesting. Days before her murder, the two of them argued, and he allegedly beat Porsche. Porsche reportedly sent images of her injuries to friends and family. And she began telling friends that she was afraid of Saun and that the reason she didn't go to police is because she was afraid of more retaliation. So also vital in this investigation, right, Tracy?
And this is where I think I can be the most useful to your show. So we know from domestic violence research that the most serious time, the most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence in terms of a lethality risk is when they leave. Now, as we've already established, this relationship has been dysfunctional, on and off again, abusive throughout the years. But it appears she's taking some different steps at this moment, right? There's the text messages about, you can't have my key. You're not going to have access to me in this way. There's the sending the photos to other family members. It appears something that Porsche is taking steps that she might not have taken in the past, signaling to Saun Jr., her ex-partner, that this is a definitive step. And if Saun was really feeling like this isn't going to be like the other times, she's really trying to leave me here, this could have been the motive. Because when I first read this, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, it seems like a toxic, abusive relationship. But what drove it to this point? It's obviously not money. There doesn't seem to be enough of that to have, made a difference. But it appears that her behavior, she is giving Saun a message. This is it. I'm taking different steps now to distance myself from you. And I think that threatened his power and control in that relationship and became the last straw.
I do think money, though, was a part of it, Tracy, at least based on what the police have said as adding to the motive.
Okay.
The police said, they were arguing over custody. In fact, Saun, as part of his many, many, many stories that he told to police, he, in the affidavit, said, look, she didn't want the kids anymore. She was going to give them to me because she wanted to get on with her life, which is completely contradictory to anything that she had ever texted to anybody, including Saun. Yeah. So she wasn't giving him the kids. That just wasn't happening. So police also understood that to be a lie. Then, money became an issue when, this is according to the affidavit, Saun supposedly found out that Porshe had taken out a loan, a Paycheck Protection Program loan, for $20,000. And so he was mad at her because if she had taken out a $20,000 loan, then she doesn't need him paying for her and the kids. So police believe that he felt like he was being taken advantage of, and he was angry that he didn't need to financially support her. So now he's losing financial control if she indeed got this loan for $20,000 that who knows would have been her exit or who knows what, and her ticket away from Saun. And he was also mad that she had a new boyfriend. So they list those three things in the affidavit as to the motive of why Saun allegedly is the one who wanted her dead. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so it's I think we're saying it from two different perspectives.
Oh, okay.
So I still don't think it's about money. I think it's about power and control. And so, he said, I'm going to take the kids. He made that comment about she wants a chance to go live her life. He also made the comment about, I'm saying it could be Curtis, the new boyfriend, but I don't think so because he has a good job as a truck driver. And I don't think he would risk a good job on a woman with 3 kids. And so even though there's money at play in terms of him talking about Curtis having a job, her taking a loan out, him maybe getting custody of the children, which would cause a financial burden, I still think at the end of the day, it was about him losing control over her behavior and over her actions and her taking steps to become independent. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So tragic. So more than a year after Porshe's murder, police finally announced the arrests of Benjamin and Saun on April 3rd, 2025, earlier this month. They released a video of the officers actually escorting Saun in his handcuffs. And Benjamin, as we mentioned, had been behind bars since the charge for the parole violation and the firearms charge. So Saun and Benjamin have both been charged with first-degree murder in Porsche slaying. They are presumed innocent until proven guilty. We don't have details of their pleas. We're waiting for this case to progress through the courts. The other thing we don't know who has custody of the 3 children.
Yeah.
Mother is dead. Father is in jail, awaiting these charges. So I don't know. I just hope that they're safe. I hope that they're loved. And I hope that they are getting as much help as possible. It is time for our comment section. These are the crime cases that you are talking about on social media. Here is our producer, Will Updike. Hey, Will, how are you?
Good. How's it going, Anna?
Good. There you go. You gave that little wave again. You got that.
I guess
Will.
that's my new thing.
That's
I don't
your
know.
thing.
How are you, Tracy?
I'm well, Will. I'm waiting to hear what crimes were committed at McDonald's today.
Oh man, you already got me called out.
No,
This week,
it is not a McDonald's crime case, is it?
Close. This week we have a case of a potential break-in, a call for help, and a McGriddle, a tale as old as time. This comes out of Chatham County, Georgia, where a man claims he called 911 to report a potential break-in on his home, but the dispatcher taking his call was distracted by a McDonald's order. So
wait a minute. Oh, it's a kind of a reverse. No way.
Something a little bit different than someone just being mad about their order, Tracy. We try to give you some variety on here.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate it.
So this caller, according to him, he reached out. This was on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2025, after a possible incident at his house. He receives a panicked call from his wife while he's working at around 9:30 a.m. She's really freaked out. She says she can see someone outside acting very suspiciously. They're kind of snooping around. They're like knocking on the different doors of the house, banging on the window, kind of seeing what's going on in there. So she gives him this call. He's obviously now very panicked. He starts racing home where his wife and 5-month-old daughter are alone. He says he has no idea what he could be coming home to, And as he's trying to get to his family, he first tries to contact the county's non-emergency line, right? Because he doesn't know exactly what's going on. Cannot get a response there. So looking for any form of help, he tries 911. He cannot get a response. So he makes multiple calls to 911 on the third try. On the third try, he's finally connected with a dispatcher. So he's trying to launch into this situation. He says he was so panicked at the time. He's doing his best to relay everything. He's not really, hearing a lot back. But he finally gets the whole thing out like 3 minutes into the call. No response. So he claims at this point, he's like, what the hell's going on? He can hear other people talking in the background on the other side of the line. And then apparently, this is according to him, the dispatcher seemed to be placing a breakfast order because the man just hears the quote, something like, McGriddle, And apparently, after securing this officer, the dispatcher returns to the man with I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, what?
So he, again, gets into this whole story. This time, they do manage to get some help. They send officers over to the house. By the time police get there, this the kind of suspicious person is gone. The wife and daughter are pretty shaken up. The family is obviously pretty upset by the whole thing. But so media reached out to the county chairman who oversees this to ask about what's been dubbed the McGriddle call, and the chairman said that should never happen. OK, your ordering breakfast should be different from answering a call. The two should never intertwine. Cannot agree more. But there's a but to this. The incident is under review, but like something that's kind of interesting about this specific call center, this is not the first incident, apparently, with Chatham County 911 dispatch. So the county's call center was recently the subject of an investigation exploring some of these possible issues. Now, allegedly, thousands of calls to the county's 911 center become abandoned or the caller hangs up every single month.
That's crazy.
And the amount of these abandoned calls appear to be going up as callers are, reportedly increasingly dissatisfied with the response that they're receiving there.
Wait a minute. Do they go up around meal times? I'm just asking. Do they see a jump around breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Just asking.
I did not see an hour breakdown, but I mean, it's not an insignificant amount. From 2020 to 2023, the number of abandoned calls went up from about 14% of calls to 27% of calls, according to county records. So more than 1 in 4 people who call 911 are abandoning the call. Now, some of those probably, I don't know, maybe a situation changes, who knows?
They can't get the county, right.
I don't think all of these are from ordering McDonald's, but they're trying to work on this situation. It seems like they're understaffed. They're working on building a new building, like an 83,000 square foot facility with multi-agency, public safety, whole deal. But they still don't have anyone to build it. So I guess if you're a contractor in Chatham County, you want to help out this 911 situation, want to help out public safety, maybe see if you can offer a bid on that.
Okay. Well, first of all, until they get their act together, I don't think that a new building is going to solve all of this. That's just my first impression.
What if they're understaffed?
They're understaffed because there's no room for them? Is that what you're saying?
You can only fit so many people in an office.
What if they hire new staff and you went in and interviewed them and there was a clown, a guy with a mask on, and a big purple fluffy guy?
But here's the other thing. I have one question here, and you may not be able to answer it. All these 911 calls are recorded. So if she's ordering on this man's call for help, everyone's going to know it. So did she? Or are they, the county executive supervisor, whatever, is just saying what he's saying, but isn't necessarily addressing the gravity of where's the evidence? Where's this 911 call? I want to hear it.
I don't have the 911 call.
No, I'm not saying that.
I'll do some digging to see if I can come up with anything. And if I find it, it'll be edited into this segment when you're watching it.
It's probably not, but years ago, you could get your wires crossed, literally. Is there anything happening where there's some interference or some other phone?
I think we've moved away
Tracy,
from
look at that.
From the people plugging the switchboard in. I don't think that. I don't know that
we're
it works
not that
way
old, Will. We understand how phone calls are made these days. All right. I understand.
I'm not sure if I understand how they're made. Is it a satellite? Is a satellite involved?
No, I have to tell you, all in all, I'm not loving it.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. Well, Tracy already won the comment thing, but I guess we'll get into some other ones anyways. Great job, Tracy. So Bob B wants to know he heard her tapping on the app. So that's something I'm really interested in too. Like, was this an office order? Was somebody just like maybe getting breakfast for the gang? Again, still not a great time to put your order in there. I would maybe write it down on a piece of paper, hold it up. Who knows? Or just ask if they could potentially wait for a little while. But yeah, I don't think they even take phone orders. So
you can order on the app. I saw the commercial.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is some sort of internal conversation about breakfast. Iwasa, they're a little defensive of this situation. They say fighting crime can make you hungry, which
yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Okay, I want to end this one on kind of a longer comment because I do think that, with these issues in the county, that it kind of raises an interesting question. But Sarah I said they should probably start paying dispatchers more to attract a more competent pool of candidates. And she went on to say, like, how often do we hear these recorded 911 calls where the dispatcher is kind of awful? They're like, okay, you've just found your child brutally murdered. Okay, I'm going to need you to calm down, ma'am. So on and so forth. We hear these 911 calls, I feel like on this show where they're pretty, it just seems like there's a detachment. But I know that's probably just a small portion of all these folks who are doing a great job every day. But that will do it for this week's comment section. Tracy had the winning comment. That was great. But you can always leave those comments over on our YouTube community page. You can also reach out to us on social media anytime. We're at My True Crime News. But until next week, don't do crime.
Okay, I got one comment, a shout out from Wendy Turner, 6514 on YouTube. I absolutely love your show, Anna. It makes my day to see your sweet face. Thank you. That was very, very sweet of you. I really love you. And the thing about YouTube and the comments that makes me laugh is like, there was a comment last week, like someone was complaining, basically bitching that it's like, what is this show? It's just people talking, to which all the other like subscribers jump on this person and say, well, that's exactly what the show is. So if you don't like it, why don't you just leave? And then it just like erupts.
What is a podcast in your mind?
Podcast? What is a freaking podcast? It's people talking.
So yeah, to me, it is people talking, but I don't know. It's a conversation about crime. That's what we do here. And that's what we'll continue to do. But I'll see you all next week.
Oh my goodness. Right. It's like, going to McDonald's and complaining. Is this all you have?
What's the menu? It's been
What's this? All burgers? It's like, people, come on now. Oh, Tracy, it's been such a pleasure having you on. I always love your commentary. You are, without question, a fan favorite. People get so excited when you're on because you give us perspective from a different point of view. And as the academic that you are and the teacher that you are, we always learn something so much from you. So I love that part. I love to learn something every single day.
And I learn from your audience too. Sometimes, my students will say, did you see what this person said? Maybe you need to explain this better. So I'm trying to get better as I'm on your show, making sure that I address issues in a way that I think, a lot of people can hear, because sometimes I'm used to talking to students, over the course of a semester. And so I have time to allow complex things to kind of unfold, to go back and forth, have a discussion. So I appreciate your audience for giving me advice sometimes too. Like, can you clarify this, or can you say this quicker? So.
Oh, I get that all the time too. And I do appreciate it, because sometimes maybe I don't see things as someone else does. And that is a very valid perspective that should have been talked about. So I love the way the conversation continues on YouTube. And also, so many of you really do a lot of research on these cases, have points of view and other nuggets of information that are always so helpful. So yeah, I guess the other thing is the viewers, the people who listen, the subscribers, y'all keep us honest and say, well, wait a minute, why'd you say that? It's like, I don't like that you made that comment. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. That's not how I meant it, but I hear you. I'll do better next time is what I try and do. You know, we're all human. We do the best we can. So Tracy, since technology, you've said is not your thing, but we've seen you here on this program over the last 2 years grow. You're like our little butterfly, our little bird flying.
Trying. Yeah, I have Instagram now for you, Ana. I think it's Tracy Tamborra I don't know.
We'll link to it. Don't worry about it.
I'm trying, Ana. I'm trying.
I know you're so funny. Anyway, so you can follow Tracy there. You could find me at Ana G News. It's Ana with one N, unless it's on TikTok, and then it's Ana G News with a Z. It's a long explanation, but I posted what I think is a very funny video about what happened to me the other day. I found a lost parrot, and I rescued a parrot, which I've never rescued in my life. This video, it just takes you through this whole thing, which is hilarious. And here I am. I put the parrot in the car because I didn't want it to get hit by a car because it's walking. It's walking in the middle of the street because its wings have been clipped. So I'm like, oh my God, this bird is going to be killed. So I grabbed the parrot, which, you know, I'm just like, went right, got the parrot in the car. And then, you know, I'm driving with my hazards on very slowly because I'm scared. I have this like animal in my car and I'm just trying to pull over. And then this bird starts climbing up my leg, up my arm, and then sits on my shoulder. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do with this thing? But ultimately, with the help of lots of people, children, people, other families, we got the bird back to its home. So if you want to see that video.
I do want to see it. But at first, I didn't realize it was walking. I'm just imagining you in a park with a bird flying all around you.
I'm driving. It's a street. I'm driving, and the bird is in the middle of, I mean, literally. And when I
Ana,
stop.
this is you. I hope your audience by now knows you're such an animal lover. Of course, you were the person to find the bird on the side of the road. Of course.
I know. It's like my neighbors are like, as I'm calling them, I'm asking anyone who's walking by, I'm like, can you take the bird? And they're like, no.
It's you, Ana. It's all you.
You have to figure this one out. But I do appreciate it does take a village. Lots of people got involved, a bunch of strangers, people, everyone. We got the bird back. The bird, the parrot, a parrot sitting on my shoulder. Can you, in the fear of like this? And then as it's sitting there, it's like trying to peck at my eyeglasses, which is undoing me.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ana, you're a better woman than I would have thrown the bird out the window. I'm sorry.
Like the bird. It's like, don't peck my eye out. Anyway, yes. All right. So you can find this episode, all our episodes, wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to our newsletter at truecrimenews.com. Until next week, I'm Ana Garcia. This is True Crime News, the podcast. We'll see you next week, everyone.